all when what we do is quite innocent or decent in itself, or even if it is something which, of its very nature, is very likely to arouse sexual pleasure, provided that we have an adequate and just reason for doing it, and there is no real danger of our consenting to the pleasure aroused. The following stages in temptation should be distinguished. We can compare them to someone at a door. 1. Temptation to sexual pleasure, the knock at the door. 2. Feeling the pleasure. The mind goes out to see who is there. 3. Taking the pleasure. I want you, come in. Chapter 11. The Commandments of God 4. The Seventh Commandment. What is the seventh commandment? The seventh commandment is, Thou shalt not steal. What does the seventh commandment forbid? The seventh commandment forbids all unjust taking away or keeping what belongs to another. Is all manner of cheating in buying and selling forbidden by the seventh commandment? All manner of cheating in buying and selling is forbidden by the seventh commandment, and also every other way of wronging our neighbor. Are we bound to restore ill-gotten goods? We are bound to restore ill-gotten goods if we are able, or else the sin will not be forgiven. We must also pay our just debts. Is it dishonest for employees to waste their employer's time or property? It is dishonest for employees to waste their employer's time or property, because it is wasting what is not their own. The Eighth Commandment. What is the Eighth Commandment? The Eighth Commandment is, Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. What does the Eighth Commandment forbid? The Eighth Commandment forbids all false testimony, rash judgment, and lies. Are calumny and detraction forbidden by the Eighth Commandment? Calumny and detraction are forbidden by the Eighth Commandment, and also tale-bearing, and any words which defame our neighbor's character or injure his reputation. If you have injured your neighbor by speaking ill of him, what are you bound to do? If I have injured my neighbor by speaking ill of him, I am bound to make him satisfaction by restoring his good name as far as I can. The Tenth Commandment. What is the Tenth Commandment? The Tenth Commandment is, Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods. What does the Tenth Commandment forbid? The Tenth Commandment forbids all envious and covetous thoughts of and unjust desires for our neighbor's goods and profits. The Seventh and 10th Commandments. The 7th commandment is, Thou shalt not steal, and the 10th is, Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods. In the 5th and 6th commandments, God protects our life and honor. In the 7th, He places our property and wealth in security. The right to private property is the right which a human being has whereby he may possess, use, and dispose of material things for his own benefit without interference from others. It arises from the natural law and is sanctioned by God in this commandment. Nature imposes on man a duty to maintain his life. To do this, he must use his intellect and will. He is endowed with foresight and can foresee his future needs and take steps to provide for them. To satisfy those needs, man requires material things of the kind which can be used over again as the need arises. His intelligence urges him to seek after and to acquire those goods and to safeguard them against loss or deprivation. Moreover, a man has a right to marry and have a family. He has the duty of maintaining that family. For this, private ownership is a necessity. Of course, this right to own is limited by the nature and purpose of things and by the fact that man is a social being with duties to his fellow men. The state can limit private ownership when the common good requires it, and only with regard to what the public interest demands should be controlled or owned publicly. The state has no authority to abolish all private ownership, because that would be to abolish what is natural to man. Real socialists and communists want to abolish private ownership of things which are productive. That is wrong. The Church says that in any given case, the system of private ownership may need to be reformed, but that it is neither lawful nor necessary to abolish it. If a man has a right to own, it is certain that that right must be respected. Therefore, the seventh commandment forbids all unjust taking away or keeping what belongs to another, and any other way of wronging our neighbor in regard to his property. Theft is a mortal sin of its nature, but it may be only venial, by reason of the smallness of what is stolen. The following are some ways of sinning against the seventh commandment. 1. Theft and robbery. 2. Assisting in theft and robbery. 3. Borrowing without hope or intention of repaying. 4. Rash speculation without being able to bear possible loss. 5. Unfair interference with another's success. 6. Extravagance.